Welcome to another episode of Summon Your Superhuman. Today, I am actually coming to you from a chapel in the middle of nowhere, undisclosed location. But I am speaking to, no kidding, a superhero who is located in Melbourne from England, because you're not going to hear the Aussie accent, so be prepared. But his name is Jake Hero Fowler. Did I say that right, Jake?
You got it right. That's in the name right there. Look.
Perfect. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Ria. It's a pleasure to return the favor. You know, I had yourself on my show a little over a month ago, and that was a lot of fun.
Hunger for the Hustle. If you haven't listened to it, guys, check it out. It was a great episode.
Yeah, it was a fantastic episode, and you know, we knew this was going to happen the other way around, and it's nice to get it done super quickly. The only thing that's changed in my world since is I've got a year older. And as you quite rightly said off camera before, I've got a new hairstyle, so things are all good. And Melbourne's completely gone into meltdown. That's a little bit of a change, but
yes,
we'll get to that later.
Yes, we shall. Well, happy birthday. Thank you. You have to tell us. I mean, look, I haven't actually interviewed a quote hero before, so please do tell us the story behind that little nickname you've got there.
Well, it's funny that the premise of the story we'll get to in a minute, but I've used that as my kind of middle name, and it used to just be my last name actually on social media for probably over 10 years. And then you meet new people and they'll be like, oh, I thought that was just your name, like genuine second name or genuine middle name. I was like, no, who would actually have that as their genuine second name? Of course it's possible, you know, you meet people called Jesus, right? This stuff happens, but yeah, it's obviously it's not. It's just a fun word put in the middle there. But the origins of the story, it's a little bit underwhelming, to be honest with you. It's like I was the guy who would, after a huge night out with your friends when you're 17, 18, 19, be the guy who goes and gets all the stuff for breakfast, the bacon, the sausages, the eggs, the black pudding, the toast, and then cooks it all up and cooks everyone an absolute feast in the morning, which, of course, when you're that age, is all you really need to get going again and get back into the party. And then it kind of just stuck from there. And towards modern day things, I've always, you know, I just like I genuinely like with kind of like, even putting like altruism aside, I just genuinely like doing things to help others. You know, I'm that kind of person that if I see someone broken down at the side of the road and it's safe to stop, I'll be getting in there and changing their tire for them, stuff like that. And then, you know, it's an interesting one. Actually, to be honest, really, this whole podcast was quite interesting to me when I was preparing for it. As a superhuman podcast, you know, when you asked me to think of where we were going to go with that, and it kind of reminded me of once when I had to write my own reference. I don't know if you've ever had to do that, but it's the most self-indulgent thing you'll like ever kind of do, writing your own reference or So yeah, I felt like it was kind of like that, you know, and I felt like, you know, Hero's a fun middle name to give yourself. It's not like a title I try and live up to, but I think I have done over the years. And certainly with what we're going to get into today with a charity that we started last year called Mission Rainwater, me and some other tradies. It's a name I believe I have pretty much lived well up to.
I love it. And that's so true. Like, you know, a superhero or a hero, an everyday hero doesn't necessarily walk around with their cape. You know, it's like Superman, like he walks around in normal day clothing, and then when he needs to, or when the time arises, you know, he puts on his costume and out he goes. But he has a mission, and he knows that he has these abilities and these superpowers to help people. So all right, so that brings us into your superpowers. So you're on a mission. You're a man on a mission. You want to help people, and last year you did something pretty cool. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so last year, as you know, I mean, a lot of the Black Saturday bushfires, as they were called, they always attach, you know, something black and then the day that it typically was next to it. And that's kind of how the fires are dubbed. You know, it's not a new thing in Australia, of course. It's something that has been going on for centuries, you know, since this land was ever colonised by the Indigenous peoples. And they actually used to use the fires each year and use fire themselves as a great tool to kind of reset the nature and reset the growth of things. Now, of course, with the way in which Australia has been populated in the past kind of 250 years, I mean, and even massively and extremely that has accelerated in the past 50 to 70 years, fire is now the enemy, of course, and fire is dangerous to to lives of not just people, but of course animals as well. And a lot of those animals are driven into smaller areas now, which means it's actually more of a problem for those animals. So yeah, Black Saturday, bushfires, they hit. I was at home, the last time I was back in the UK actually was Christmas 2019. Had a wonderful time there with my family. And I could hear it. I was hearing about these bushfires on the news. And it's a bit like the stuff that's going on with Melbourne at the moment, which, as I said, we'll get onto later. People always are like, oh, the fires are terrible. You know, they expect you to kind of have all the news and know it all, when really I'm not someone who really inhales that much news anyway, particularly on mainstream outlets. So I was like, yeah, and they kind of, these fires had kind of kicked off after I'd already headed to the UK. So I kind of went on the 20th, and then by the 25th, and certainly I think the height of it was around the 31st and the 1st, which was when it got really bad in places like Malakuta, and a lot of those images of the whole town kind of being pushed out to the edge of the town on the water, and all the kind of images of the kangaroos jumping out and into the sea. Those are the ones that were really kind of shown around the world, and those people got rescued by boats off the shore. That was really an area that was smashed. But I came back to Australia and flew back in, and I knew it was just as bad, because you know you're never really too sure what the media says and what's actually playing out. But when I came back into Melbourne, it took us an hour and a half to land, because the smoke was that bad coming over from East Gippsland, the area where most of these fires were. We had to circle for an hour and a half to be able to actually properly see the runway and safely land. And I was like, yeah, and you could smell it. You could physically, you know, you could smell it in the air as soon as you kind of came into it. And I was like, yeah, this is actually really bad. You know, it's really bad. And it's the worst. I'm not sure. I wouldn't be too sure. I believe since the King Lake fires, it was certainly the worst that had been seen for a long time. And, you know, they weren't just happening in East Gippsland where I was, which is kind of 5 to 6 hours, depending on where in the area you're going, northeast of Melbourne. They were happening everywhere. And I got off the plane, and you know, you could see it and smell it in the air. There was like a thick blanket of smoke in the air, and I was thinking, well, this is 5 or 6 hours away. This is, you know, this is something really, really serious. And I kind of, you know, I remember sitting in the taxi on the way back and, you know, catching up with everyone as you do. Now you're back in the right time zone, and you know, arranging stuff for people to catch up with people. You've been away for a month, you want to see your mates. And then I got home and got settled down, but I just kind of, I thought from that moment, like, what can I do to help here? I know there's been large loss, there's been a huge amount, and that toll really wasn't known until a later time, the amount of animals that were lost. I think it was way up there in the millions of animals lost, and there were obviously some lives lost as well. But the thing that was lost at a huge scale and really caused devastation, obviously I'm not taking anything away from the lives that were lost there, and like, you know, thoughts and feelings still go out to people that lost people in those times. But there was a lot of property loss. There was a lot of property loss, and it was devastating. And a lot of people who maybe didn't lose their property, but out in rural areas, which all of these fires really were, where it had really taken hold, areas like Corryong and Cancoban, people's water supplies have been destroyed, because often a lot of them have rainwater capture, which is a rainwater tank which catches rain off the roof, and then that fills the tank. And you know, that's the water people use out in the country of Australia and have done for ages, and it's fine. Stick a filter on it, you can drink it. Doesn't taste great, but it's okay. But a lot of those water supplies have been destroyed. And you know, it was, you know, social media is a blessing and a curse, but it was great for finding out this information quickly and finding out what was happening and getting involved in a few groups. And before I knew it, I was about an hour in, and I'd met a fella called Dwayne Heath, who I called up on the phone, and he said, yeah, like, we're out here, we're doing what we can. We've just essentially got here, and we're just kind of trying to figure out what we can do and where we can help people. And it was evident that a lot of water tanks needed replacing. I was up there within 2 days of that, I think. My boss at the time was very kind to kind of let me use the vehicle and pay for all the fuel. And I loaded my car up with, like, what did I load it up with? Like food, no, not food, but clothing supplies, and lots of petrol and diesel, and all the kind of stuff that you generally need post-disaster. You know, there was a lot of like clothing and boots there, because, you know, a lot of these people had lost their homes and they've been wearing the same clothes for a week because they'd lost everything. So yeah, I loaded my van up and I was up there, went to Corryong, and there's about 6 guys up there with Dwayne, and he was kind of heading it all up. And beautiful place, actually, a really nice part of Australia that I'd never seen before. And excuse me. From there, we were there for about a week that time, and then went and came back. And by then we kind of brought digger drivers in, and we ended up rebuilding a whole shed actually for one gentleman who'd lost it all and lost all his family heirlooms and some beautiful cars and things. And that's, we kind of branded ourselves as Mission Rainwater, and we got some huge support from Reece Plumbing, which is the biggest plumbers merchants in Australia and has been for many, many years. They funded us with tens and tens of thousands of dollars, and we were also donated water tanks from all around Australia, and Gold FM got behind us as well with a campaign to give us some funding as well. And how it actually played out, we actually installed over 100 rainwater tanks in the end. Could you believe it? Wow. They were donated free of charge. No one paid for anything on that front. And yeah, I would say that was quite a heroic thing to be involved in.
Absolutely.
You might even call it superhuman.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Like 100, over 100. That's amazing.
Yeah, because the thing that people don't think about is, well, some people think about it, of course, but okay, you've got to rebuild. So what's the first thing you need? Well, yeah, you need food and sustenance, but you need water as well. You need water not only to drink. That's what I took with me as well. I knew there was something else. I took loads and loads of bottled water, loads of spring water. People need water to rebuild, to make cement and just to build at all. It's something you really need. It's the first thing you need. So we fitted camp showers, we rebuilt sheds. Trying to think of the gentleman's name. I can't remember his name, but there was definitely some articles about him in the paper. And, we were still in these areas whilst they were still burning. We had the app on our phone, the SES app, like the emergency app, and it was like, warning, there's a fire like 10, 15 k's from you. And it was just, it was a very interesting situation to be in. We became very well connected with the local CFA as well. And, you don't do stuff like this to, I was doing it genuinely because within my heart, I wanted to help others, and I've always been that way, But it was nice to get some recognition, particularly from the Governor General of Australia, which is kind of like the Queen's representative here in Australia, for anyone who doesn't know, invited us to a barbecue in another area that we helped in, which was Malakuta, which I mentioned earlier. We went there and installed a load of rainwater tanks as well. And actually, in the end, it kind of transformed into, well, this is all good and well, replacing these rainwater tanks, but what can we do? Because fires aren't going to stop, right? As I said at the beginning of this interview, they've been here for thousands of years and they're not going to stop. And actually, they're probably going to get worse with the way the global warming is going. And, people keep building and keep populating, so they're going to keep affecting people. So what can we do to try and develop a system that protects properties? And we actually came up with a system called the Fire Smart Tank, and we installed the first one in the world, actually in Malakuta, which is a patented product. And yeah, we got some recognition for that and features all over kind of the news and stuff, which was good fun. Always being in front of always fun being in front of the camera, but when it's like a big camera on someone's shoulder, it's always a lot more fun. Yeah, and it was nice because, like I say, you don't do it for recognition, but the thing that recognition brings is publicity. And then a lot more people got on board with our campaign then, and we got support from Sony Music, John Farnham. Yeah, we got licensed his track for a year to use. Eddie Rudd made a beautiful song that was kind of in a tribute to the work that we've been involved in. There's some other people that I need to mention. They'll come to me later. But yeah, we just got huge support for what we were doing. We were going in there and just doing it. We were just like, yeah, we're plumbers. We've got the skills. We've got the time. We can do this. We can be there. Way before, okay, the government kind of had people in there, but they were just clearing stuff up. They were just going in there with excavators and scraping stuff into piles and being like, yeah, okay, we've done our job. We've made the area safe and got rid of your rubble, which is good and well. But it took them a long, long time until way after we'd been there to actually, get in there and start giving people water supplies again.
That's brilliant. And it's exactly right, like what you said. You know, you don't do it for recognition. You came back from a family holiday and went, there's a disaster going. Oh, there's a disaster going on, and what can we do to do our part? You know, use your skill set, which we didn't even mention there, that you do have that skill set in plumbing, and you said you were with a whole bunch of other tradesmen. Is that correct? Like that were different trades or similar trades to you, or?
The majority of them were plumbers. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because obviously there was a lot of rainwaters and things that needed to be rebuilt. So
That was it. You know, when people, you know, shout out to all the tradies out there, especially the ones that are at home at the moment because we can't bloody work. But anyway, shout out to all the tradies. You know, they're legends and they're heroes in their own right. You know, without blowing my own trumpet here, though, plumbers are, you know, really integral to any of that, because without proper sanitation and clean drinking water, you know, what is a building? You know, it's just a shell. It's just a shell that can provide you, of course, warmth and shelter with a good fire and stuff. But, you know, if you haven't got good sanitation and clean drinking water, you're going to end up in trouble pretty soon.
Yeah. It's pretty saddening when you think about how many places and civilizations actually still exist in the world that don't have, you know, things that like running water and toilets and things that we take here for granted. So
yeah,
I know especially here as well, it was the fires were quite devastating here in South Australia. Like I even had one of my clients where she was in Kangaroo Island, you know, it was completely abolished, and they were actually underground, you know, whilst there was a fire above them, and, you know, resurfaced with literally just her passport and a few bits and pieces on her body. And, you know, it's devastating on so many different levels, but
yeah.
thank goodness for people like you. I said, thank goodness for people like you, you know, for us. I love how Aussies, you know, just have this, I don't know, ability to just get on with it and just help out in every which way they can, whether it's, you know, a donation here or clothing. You know, we're always happy to do what we can to help our fellow Aussies.
Mateship, right? Mateship. Yeah. It's a huge thing in Australia. I remember reading a book, and it was kind of Australia, the biography of a nation, and it really dialed into the whole mateship thing and why it was, you know, because it's a big thing in Australia. You know, everyone looks after the family, of course, but really the friends as well, you know, and so mateship's a huge thing here. And I think it really, when you look back at it, in a cool kind of way, it kind of connects in to what we've just been talking about, fires and certainly heat, because, you know, when this country was colonized or colonies were brought over, people had to look out for each other, you know, when they were scratching around in the dirt and it was 40 degrees in the day and there really wasn't much shelter or water around. You know, people really had to look out and after each other. And like, as I say, there's always been fires, you know, every summer we kind of, they come and go, you know, the worst ones come kind of in 10-year bouts. So hopefully we don't see any as bad as we saw in 2020 for a considerable amount of time. But yeah, mateship's a big thing in Australia, and everyone's, it's always a big thing to help out and do what you can. And for me, it was also like, I felt like I just got my permanent residency literally a few days before I came back into Australia. And that was momentous for me because it was something that I'd been working towards for a long time, and a big goal of mine, you know, to be able to be freely live in Australia and work for the rest of my life, and to be able to come and go as well. that one's kind of gone for the minute. Yeah, you can't really come and go at the moment. However, you can book flights, and I've done that. So, but that was a big thing I've been working towards for a long time, and it came in, and I was like, fantastic, this is just brilliant. And it was, in a way, I felt like it was my way of paying this country back for everything it's done for me, in terms of, you know, this was the place where I came and I learned. I'd had many businesses before, but this is the one where I hit it right and did it well, and I learned entrepreneurship and I learned business, and I found my passions, like speaking, like leading, you know, ultimately to this moment where we are right now, speaking on this podcast, and I came out with my own podcast and some other things that I'm working on. You know, it was probably the single best thing I ever did moving to Australia, and what felt like not like I owed. Yeah, no, actually, that's fair to say. I did feel like I owed something for that privilege. You know, I think you touched on it there earlier. There's an awful lot of places still in this world in 2021 that are, you know, third world places, you know, and they're you know, they don't have correct sanitation and clean drinking water. And obviously I came from the UK, which has all that stuff, but Australia's a beautiful place and will always hold a special place in my heart. And to be able to come here, and it dials into being a plumber as well, the fact that that's what really got me here, you know, got me the sponsorship and got me to stay here. So yeah, I've kind of expanded on that a lot, but yeah, that's another thing about why I did it. I felt like I was paying back the country that had done so much for me.
That's awesome. And you touched a couple of different things there. I mean, you know, I was on your podcast, Hunger for the Hustle, and it's all about entrepreneurship and business and things like that. And you've done some pretty cool things in business. You said, you know, you came to Australia and this is where you finally got it right. Unpack that for us. What does that mean to you?
Well, because you know, I was like the guy who would sell sweets, like lollies, they call them here, but like chocolates and stuff on the playground at school. You know, I literally go and get them cash and carry at the weekend. And I get told off for it every week, every day almost. They take my stuff off me, and it'd just be a continuous cycle that happened. And my parents used to get angry about it at first, and then they're like, actually no, he's hustling here, just let him do it. You're not going to stop him anyway, so you might as well like embrace it. I think was there. Yeah. I remember I was speaking to my mom about it like now and again, and she was like, yeah, I was angry with you at first, but then I actually realized it was quite a smart thing that you're doing. And I've still got like detention slips for doing it, which I want to frame one day, because I'm like, that was like version 0.1 entrepreneur starting out. And then from there it went to like,
well, how old were you, Jake? Sorry, how old were you when you're doing that? You said on the playground.
So it was secondary school. So I even did it in primary school, but I didn't even like charge people. I was just kind of, I didn't quite get the business right then. I was just giving them like, it was like popularity sweets.
Okay.
Take these and we'll all be friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a story within that as well. But I would have been about 12, 13, something like that then. Yeah.
Nice.
When I was doing that. And it went from there to flipping stuff on eBay, and then went to club nights and events and parties, and always hustling and selling. And then when I was 16, I did my apprenticeship and in plumbing, and always had plumbing as a background and a base. And I'm really glad I did, because we'll get into it a little bit later, but things really changed and turned around this year. And although I went full-time into entrepreneurship last year, there were some reasons that I actually wanted to get back into employment this year. But yeah, I had a company with my dad when I was 21, and we used to sell. My dad used to be a private investigator, so he was always into this kind of like technology and equipment and stuff he could use to make the job easier, better, and faster. And we had a company called Tech. I think you can still, if you Google it, there's still some traces of it around. Certainly the logo's still around. And we used to supply the police and the military internationally with cameras and surveillance equipment. Now, let me tell you, that was an interesting thing to be doing at 21 years old, whilst running parties every weekend, and like essentially partying from like Thursday to Saturday every week, and then having this business at the same time as well. It's very interesting. But that didn't quite work out at the end. A few reasons, like one of the reasons where we just, me and my dad kind of became like loggerheads with it. You know, we kind of lost the father and son, and it was just like business partners, and it didn't quite work out. And then from there, yeah, I would have gone back into plumbing from there, but always had something that I was doing on the side, like hustling or nightclub events, lost hours, my party was called, and like eager to get some of them back on the go. Actually, I think next year is going to be like a reunion, 10-year reunion for that. Awesome. And then I came to Australia, and I knew that I was going to have to do plumbing. I knew that plumbing was going to be my ticket to be able to stay here, get my sponsorship, get my permanent residency, which is no easy feat here in Australia to come here and stay here. You know, you really have to have a skill that this country needs. And I think the system's good and fair, and I know they're making it harder all the time, though. But I think that's fair. You know, if you come here and you have a skill that this country needs and you're prepared to work hard, then you'll be rewarded with being able to stay here. And it's reciprocal, you know, it works for Australians in the UK as well. So I came here and got into plumbing. I didn't get into plumbing. I was like doing anything to the start, like sweeping factory floors and just doing general labouring for a couple of months.
Nice,
but then
nice.
I found a good company to work for, plumbing. And at this point, my dad had got into metal fabrication and steel fabrication, which is something he'd always done. And he developed this product called the paddock blade. You want to remember that word because it will be synonymous around the world eventually. Paddock blade's like a horse manure collector is basically what it is. It's a horse shit picker-upper, pooper scooper. Yeah, and it's just a device it's a metal tray about the size of a pallet, and it saves people time and effort. It's as simple as that, by collecting up horse poo as they tow behind them around a field or a paddock. And he had this product there, and he's like, why don't you give it a whirl there? And, you know, I've always been tech savvy, always been capable in technology and very good at learning it really quickly. And I love learning as well. So I was like, yeah, I reckon I could do this. And I found some manufacturers, and, you know, the difference between me and my dad was he could make it himself, whereas I couldn't. Like, although I'm a tradesman, I'm a good plumber, but I'm not. Steel fabrication is a very different thing, and I wasn't set up for it either. And it was important to me. I knew as well that I was going to be working full-time plumbing, so I had to set up. I don't like to use the word like passive, like, because I don't believe any income is passive. At some time, it takes you a shitload of work. I hope I can swear on this podcast because I've already sworn a couple of times.
You're all good.
You're all right.
It's all good.
It takes a shitload of work at some point. There's no such thing as passive income. Yeah, at some point, it takes you some time to set it up, and a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears along the way to get it booming, as they say, get it pumping. But that's what I did. I set up this business, so it was contract manufactured, advertised just online, no actual office, no actual staff. I didn't have any staff for at least 3 years. I had a couple of people that I used to help me out with stuff. But I learned the e-commerce business, and this is what I mean when I say I got it right. Like, I learned how to be the difference in the marketplace. There was already products out there that we've far superseded now, in terms of how many we sell and how many people really love the product. And I got it right in other ways. I was like, because before I just throw myself into projects, and I hadn't really worked on my mindset as much. So, like, having an awareness of what the customer really needs. I think when you get that right in business, like, because you are just a person selling a product or service, you're selling it to a customer, and their needs are way more important than yours at the end of the day in terms of business. And you have to figure out what they need. You know, where do you find that out? Well, the answers are there in social media. They're generally in the comments. You put content out at scale, you listen to what the market says in the comments, and then you adjust your business to suit those needs. I think that really does work. And that's what I did, essentially. You know, I put the product out as a concept sort of thing, and I put it out to loads and loads and loads of Facebook groups and other places, and I got really people like, this is great, when can we get it, we need it, where is it, you know? And I was like, well, let's take some pre-orders, you know. And I literally started the business off the back of one sale, and I was like, oh, you're gonna have to wait like 6 weeks because we're so flat out making them. Had to tell a little bit of a white lie there, and from that made 2, and then from the next order made 3, and it just kind of spooled on from there. But I got it right because I got the marketing right. I addressed the customer's needs, and I kept all paddock blades are made in the country of origin. So if you buy one in the UK, or stretch that out to Ireland, Scotland, Wales, it's made in the UK. If you buy one in Australia, it's made in Australia. You know, it supports Australian jobs, it uses Australian steel, and it always will do. You know, as the company expands globally, it will always do that. It's one of its core values, and people love that, particularly in Australia. People love Australian made. Yeah, it's a thing it's blown up as well on the back of what's happened in these times in the past 12 to 18 months, that import and export has become unstable and unreliable, or at least very lengthily. So people have moved back towards Australian-made goods, and you know, within kind of 3-4 years of really grinding at it, in its 4th year, it really took off. It really took off last year, and you know, it's still climbing. So yeah, I think that's why I got it right.
That's awesome. And that's super important. I mean, there are just so many things there that, you know, you have every right to be proud about. You know, one, it's like you've taken this idea that your father had, you found a way to make it happen within your means, because obviously you know, within your skill set, and getting it made in Australia is a big thing. I mean, that's wonderful to be able to, you know, be an Australian company and develop in Australia for distribution in Australia. And you are serving customer needs. You're serving to your customers' needs. Like, you actually went to market first before you produced. So you found out, like, hey, what do you guys think?
Yep.
Is this going to serve you? And people were like, yes. And you were able to deliver. Like, no wonder it's been successful.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to, this is the thing, guys, like, if you're watching this and you want to get into selling a product, and you want to get into as simple as that, selling a product or service, you can put that product out as the idea, as the concept, before it's ever actually even been made, you know. And like, spoiler alert, that's what we do with Paddock Blade now. We're like, okay, well, let's tease it, let's put it out there, let's get one made and get it photographed, make sure the photographs are good, make sure the write-up's good, and let's put it out to the marketplace and see what the feels we get back are. You know, once you know how to push a product out and get that feedback, you're not going to get a whole scope for its possibleness to be, how effective it's going to be, or the demand it's going to be in the marketplace, but you'll definitely get some kind of idea. And I think that's why, you know, you can, as they say, bootstrap, you know, business these days. Started with very little, started with your own skills. I must say, like, I probably got something wrong there earlier in this interview when I said I didn't use anyone or have any staff. I know I didn't have any staff and didn't have anyone on the books or wages. At the start, like, my friends helped me, particularly my friend Nathan. Shout out to Nathan McDukes, legend, huge guy in tech, and actually has taught me a lot about crypto and NFTs lately. Whole other topic, but he helped me get the first videos done and get the first videos together. And of course, video is so important in advertising. Getting your product out. But yeah, like, and then the thing was, like, getting e-commerce right. You know, we use Shopify, and my dad was great at making stuff, but not too, and actually he's good at selling stuff as well. But sorry, Dad, not as good as me. But like, I then kind of copied, you know, cookie cutted what I'd done here, and then applied that to the business in the UK, because my dad was selling, but he was just selling literally through word of mouth on Facebook. And he was like, yeah, we've got PayPal, or it'd be like bank deposit. It was like, there was no cards being taken. There was no buy now, pay later services. So yeah, you know, you can, that's the great thing about a business as well. Once you've got it right once, then you can transform that, typically, if it's into, you can transfer them skills and you can just make it work around the world. That's
awesome. And congratulations to you and your dad for a successful and, you know, beneficial business now that you're helping many people. It's great.
Thank you. And, you know, it got to the point last year that I made the decision that the revenue was there to give me the freedom to be able to do it full time, right? And just go, like, which is something I'd worked and dreamed towards for a long time, like full-time entrepreneurship. It's going to be fantastic and amazing and brilliant. And it was for a bit. Like, it was probably amazing for, like, let me be really honest here and say it was really good for maybe like 3 months. 4 months maybe, and then I was like, as we were, and it's a lot to do with lockdowns going in and out of them. Damn, I got so far without saying anything, any kind of like official connected word to these times then. But now I've said it, like, in and out of lockdowns, it was like entrepreneurship's, look, if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, I want to get into entrepreneurship because I'm going to earn shitloads of money and it's going to be really great and I'm going to have all my own time and freedom, let me tell you, it does not quite pan out like that, because you need to work even harder when you work for yourself than someone else, and you're not going to have as much time. And look, I'm not saying it's not going to happen. You might strike it lucky, you know, you can have overnight success, but it's usually like overnight success with a 5-year story. And it's also pretty lonely. It's also actually pretty lonely, entrepreneurship is, you know, unless you surround yourself with a network of people that do the same stuff, you're essentially kind of doing your own thing all the time, which in times like this, when, which kind of can't believe we're still in them in Australia, but we are, you know, work is starting and stopping. And I just decided, I was like, you know, I need some solid routine. This is actually the first time I've ever talked about this on a podcast. I need some like solid routine here. and so you're getting an exclusive rare. Like, I need more structure and routine. I think there's a lot that can be said for that. I think when you lose that structure and routine, for me, it kind of almost like no structure, no routine equals bad habits. Whereas if it's like structure, routine, good habits, you know, and then you can build momentum with that. So yeah, so I went back to like, what do I do now? Well, usually I do like 3-4 days a week plumbing, and then 2-3 days a week on my own business. The key is as well is finding the right people to help you. You know, you get to a point where you can't do it all by yourself, and you need some people to assist you. And the only way to find them is by hiring them and giving them the chance, and then by firing them pretty quickly if they're not right for the role.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's you just busted. Oh, sorry, go on.
No, you go. I was actually just going to say, I'm just feeling super buzzed today and like super full of energy. So like I'm just very aware that I've done a lot of the talking. So
that's great. That's the difference. See, you're not used to it, Jake, because you're on the other side now, right? When you're the interviewer, it's like you ask a question and then you basically sit back and let the other person speak. So, you know, that's why this is your superhero story. That's why you're doing all the talking. And I'm glad you've been super buzzed for it. You've dropped a lot of, you know, like I like to call golden nuggets today. And, you know, and that's the audience, right? So it's like everyone that listens to this are people that want to, you know, they're ambitious, they're career driven, they're, you know, entrepreneurs, they want to be successful in this life in whatever shape or form. And it's true. It's exactly what you said, you know, it can be isolating, and you wanted that taste of structure and that routine. And it's important. It's important for your own sanity in a lot of ways.
It is.
And, you know, and thank you for sharing that. You know, you said that you hadn't shared that on anyone else's show before. And, you know, and that myth that people say, oh, I can do this by myself, I don't need no one. But every successful person has had helpers, has had people and support around them. You know, even in my early beginnings, even just as a coach or a remedial therapist or whatever you want to say, it's like the majority of my business has come from word of mouth and reputation. And so I couldn't have just, you know, set up shop, you know, put a little open sign on the outside and be like, I'm here, you know, like people need to know about you. And because I didn't market myself very well at the beginning, so I did it, you know, thank goodness, had a good reputation. I always tried to deliver and do the right thing, and then people come, and then your business grows, and sort of that's how things develop.
That's it. Yeah. If you build it, they will come, as I say. But you know, you learn what to do right by doing, like you learn what to do right once by doing it wrong 10 times, you know, or even more. You know, you've just said that, like at the start, you don't market yourself well, and you're marketing yourself badly. But what you're also doing, if you're smart, some people don't, like you're learning from it along the way, you know, like you're making like mental notes, or even you're actually making notes along the way. This worked, that didn't. And that always changes, you know, like the way you, like I'm thinking back to when I first started doing events and business, and you could advertise then on social media and it was free, and everyone just like lapped it up. Whereas that lens totally changed when they started doing like, you got to pay to be put in front of people now. And that's one thing I really got right last year. And last year was a great year to do that because so many more people were online, you know, and the trend did somewhat continue this year, but advertising, and that's the change as well. Advertising got a lot more expensive online. So the way in which you have to approach it is always changing as well. You know, now I have an agency that helps me with the ads. At the start, there's no way I could afford that. But even with an agency, don't put your faith completely in them. You know, I give ideas to my agency. They're the best in Australia. And they're like, oh, we didn't kind of think of that. I'm like, well, let's give it a try. If it doesn't work, maybe we'll try something else. But you've got to be dynamic, and you've got to understand that the life pulse of your business is in the comments. It's in the comments to the content that you post, and it can be positive and it can be negative, but it doesn't matter, and don't delete it. Leave it there for the world to see. Just make sure you're better next time. So like the next time you come around with something, you know, like I've uploaded content that people haven't liked for one reason or another. A lot of our content is horse related content. A lot of people see it as like, oh, that's like, people see it as a lens of, you know, you've always got like like Judy in Central Australia who doesn't like your content and thinks it's like mean and it's cruel, and it's like, actually it's not. Like, this is, you know, this is your opinion and your view of it, and, you know, 10 people might think that, but then 100 people don't. So it's important to show a whole picture of your content and of what people think of your content that you put out that's related to your products and business, and that's not as well, you know, because it's about posting fun stuff that people like to. I put a big emphasis on posting stuff that's going to bring a little bit of light to people's day, make them smile, make them feel good. People dial into that.
And I think that is part of your personality that comes out in the business, I'd say.
Yeah, you know, that's a good point, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what makes, you know, your business uniquely you. Like, I mean, even though, you know, it's not named after you per se, it doesn't have to be, but like, you bring your essence to the business, and that's the beautiful part about it. You know,
one business I forgot about, actually, which, because I kind of canned it for a bit, but I'll be back.
Yeah.
Hero Adventure Products, which does have my name in it, and it's like, because I love to travel when we can. And I've started a business selling travel products, like a scratch map of the world. I've still got like hundreds of them in a garage somewhere, and I will bring it back. But yeah, so just thought I'd slide that in when you said it wasn't named after you.
I'm sure there are so many other businesses you've done as well, and like I chuckled as you were talking about your humble beginnings, because like I was quite similar, actually, in the sense that I started off on eBay as well, having an internet and you know, a computer, and I was like 12, 13 years old selling stuff on eBay.
How easy was it to make cash on eBay in like 2006, 7, 8? You can't really do it now because people are too wise to it, but you could literally go and buy stuff from a shop and then just put it on eBay and mark it up. It was mental.
Yeah.
You know, but then like I'll be straight. I'll give full disclosure, and I've talked about this on podcasts before. I'd sell sweets on the playground, and then I did like the whole club night thing, and then I'd sell like illegal stuff as well. Like I'll let the audience try and figure the rest out, but there's like a part of time where there was like stuff being sold that wasn't good and wasn't legal, and it was like bad, and there was like, but it's the hustler thing, you know. You see a lot of that. It's very transferable, that kind of hustle to the like, if you can transfer your skills to like the business hustle and working like, you know, 15, 16, 20 hours. I pulled an all-nighter this week where I think I didn't go to bed till 6 the next morning just because I got stuck into some business. And I'm like, but it's like people say, you know, my sister's an artist, and she said to me once, she was doing a piece, and I said to her, like, how long did that take you? And she's like, you know, I couldn't really tell you. I just worked, like, it was over a period of 2 days. And it's because like when you're doing what you love, the time just passes by and you don't notice it all because you're so enthralled with what you're doing. So
exactly right.
Essentially your passion, right? Once you find your passion, you feel like you'll never work again.
Yes, true. And that's the biggest thing for business owners or successful entrepreneurs, or anyone in service, where you're delivering a need, you're solving a problem. And, you know, like my humble beginnings were sort of similar, like in the sense that I would find things that you weren't easily available here. Like I'd find stuff from the US, you know, I was very big on basketball. So I'd find like things that weren't easily found here in Australia. I'd import them. And then that's what I was selling. I'd never actually told this. Now I'm telling this publicly, but that's sort of where I started, because I was all about basketball, big nerd on that. And then like, because I was a DJ as well. So it was like, illegally downloading music and like burning mixes and music and turning CDs and all that sort of stuff too. So because you could back then, you know. Oh, look at that. He's just holding up a CD mixer.
Yeah, my best mate Carl has been kind enough to lend me this, and I've been putting my track list together, because before I did promoting, obviously I had decks and I was into like, you know, DJing, but I'm just picking back up. Yeah. And then him are going to get, like, in this lockdown, we're like, right, we're going to come out of it. I'm going to polish up on my skills, and we're going to be good enough that we can put a mix out together.
Oh, nice.
We're going to call it Operation Goodie Baddie. So guys, look out for that.
I've got people keep trying to pull me out of retirement with the DJing. You know, I've taken a bit of a sabbatical from that, but they're all like, can you come play here? And I'm like, no, I don't do that. I go to bed early now.
You should find like a daytime party where it's a basketball comp and you should DJ as well and combine the two.
True.
On
True.
basketball, didn't Australia win gold at basketball in the Olympics?
No, I don't think we did. I think the
Did they
US
not?
won.
Oh,
US,
the US. Oh,
yeah, US always.
shouldn't have mentioned that, should
We
I?
did pretty well.
I
We
just
we
lost
did
like
well. We
10
didn't like come
subscribers.
dead last or anything like that, but like
Got to
we
the
certainly
final.
didn't get gold.
No, got to the final, but didn't you? Okay, shouldn't have said that. I probably just like lost all my Australian fans.
No, all good, all good.
Oh, bless.
Yeah.
Hey, I've actually got one of my shows at 6.
Ooh.
So,
All right. Well, before you run,
yeah.
what does summoning your superhuman mean to you?
Summoning my superhuman means to me, well, it goes back to my values and what I align with, which is helping others. You know, how do you summon that? Well, for me, I don't really summon it. It's just something that I feel. Compassion and empathy. It's who I am. It's what I am. You know, I'm a Virgo. It's the traits of a Virgo. It's very empathic. So it's something that's kind of always within me. Sometimes it's dormant, and sometimes I do it actually at the expense of myself. Like I go to the point of helping others at the lesser, you know, kind of benefit of myself. So I think you have to watch that. But yeah, I hope that answers the question.
It 100% does. I love that. It's a very, we haven't had a response like that before. So I love that. And it's honest and real, and it's within you. And summoning it, sometimes people don't quite have that confidence or understanding of how to, but you certainly do. You're in tune with your superpowers, and I look forward to staying aligned with your journey. And I really feel like you and I are going to stay in touch, because we just seem to manage to just chat for like time flies so quickly. But I will let you go, and I want to thank you so much for sharing your words of wisdom with us today. And thank you so much. I'll put all of Jake's details in the show notes, and please make sure you follow this guy. He truly is an everyday hero. Thank you so much, Jake.
Ria, thanks so much for having the time to have me on the show. I really appreciate it. It's great to be here. It's great to kind of flip the script on this. It's great to be a guest on someone else's show as well. So thanks so much for your time. It's been a great connecting with you again. We'll definitely stay in touch. Hey, and enjoy the chapel as well.
Well, I need to explore where I am. I literally just arrived here, and here I am. So I'm gonna go explore exactly where the hell I am right now.
Jump on that motorbike that I was hearing in the background.
Yeah. I'm gonna strangle some people, like trying to make it noisy. But anyway, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
That's real.